In the remote highlands of Tana Toraja, as dusk bleeds across the sky, a sound can be heard from the home of the Laka family. It is not a human cry. It is not the settling of an old house. It is a dry, rasping whisper that seems to scrape its way out from the very walls and floorboards, a sound of immense age and unending thirst. This is not a new terror. The people of the village have heard it for years. The Laki family has lived with it for 3 generations. The chilling whisper is their inheritance, a spectral debt passed down from father to son, a constant, quiet reminder that something is deeply, horribly wrong. Something was left undone, and a presence remains, waiting. To understand this chilling echo, one must first understand the spiritual world of the Torajan people. Their ancient belief is called Aluk To Dolo, the way of the ancestors. It is a complex worldview where life and death are not opposites. They are not separate rooms, but 2 points on a single, unbroken line. In this reality, the dead do not leave. They are simply transformed. They become tumakula, or the sick ones. They are treated as if sleeping, still part of the family, still present in the home. They are still listening. They are still watching, and they are waiting for their living relatives to fulfill the most sacred duty of all. This duty is the funeral rite, a ceremony known as Rambu Solo, or the smoke descending. It is the single most critical event in a Torajan's existence, far more important than birth or marriage. It is a massive, multi-day spectacle, a feast that requires the family to save for years, sometimes decades, to afford. The price is paid in blood. Dozens of water buffalo and pigs are sacrificed in the ceremony. But this is not for celebration. It is a spiritual transaction. Each sacrificed animal is a guide, a vehicle to carry the soul of the deceased on its long, difficult journey to the afterlife, a green field known as puya. If the ceremony is incomplete, if the sacrifices are too few, or if the rites are performed incorrectly, the spiritual transaction fails. The soul cannot pay its way. It is denied entry to puya. Trapped between worlds, the spirit becomes something else entirely. It festers. It becomes a bombo, a restless and often malevolent ghost. A bombo is not a generic spirit. Torajan beliefs define these entities with terrifying precision. A person who died violently, for instance, can become a vengeful ghost, a spirit that actively seeks to cause harm and chaos among the living. Its pain becomes its weapon. But a soul whose family neglected their funeral rites becomes a hungry ghost. It is bound to its family, to its former home, by a sense of incompletion. It does not seek to kill, but to feed. It slowly drains the prosperity, the health, the very life force from its own descendants. The dry, rasping whisper in the Lake house is the sound of a family being consumed by its own forgotten dead. This constant, looming threat explains why the connection to the dead must be actively maintained, even long after the smoke of the Rambu Solo has cleared. It leads to another ceremony, a necessary appeasement known as manene, the cleaning of the corpses. And it reveals a truth even more unsettling than a hungry ghost. The work is never, ever done. This ritual is a physical act of remembrance, the living look upon the faces of those who came before, tending to them as if they still lived. They offer them food, water, and cigarettes, speaking to them of family news. It is an intimate, unsettling reunion meant to honor the bond that death could not break. It is a promise whispered to the preserved dead, a promise that they are not forgotten. To break this promise is to commit a spiritual crime. The Torajan people believe that a neglected ancestor is a dangerous one. Their spirit, the bombo, does not simply fade away in sadness. It festers. It becomes a source of misfortune, its love curdling into a cold, resentful energy that can poison the lives of the descendants who abandoned it. Oral histories from the Bori Kalimbuang area tell of one such failure. A prominent family, having converted to a new faith, decided to stop the manene ritual for their great-grandfather. He had been a powerful nobleman, a man of great influence in his life. They believed the old ways were pagan and that their new beliefs would protect them. They were wrong. Within a single year, the family's fortunes collapsed. Their rice paddies, once rich, yielded only blackened, stunted grains. A strange wasting sickness swept through their prized water buffalo. Family members spoke of a new coldness in their home, of waking in the night to see a tall, familiar shadow standing in the corner of the room, watching them with an unseen, unforgiving gaze. This fear is anchored not just in rituals, but in physical objects. High on the limestone cliffs, silent figures watch over the valleys. These are the Tao, life-sized wooden effigies of the dead, carved to resemble them in life. They are not mere sculptures. They are spiritual vessels, gazing out from stone balconies cut into the rock. According to the old belief of Aluk To Dolo, a part of the deceased's soul resides within the Tao. These silent, wooden guardians serve as a link, a permanent anchor for the spirit to the land of the living. Their unblinking eyes are a constant, eerie reminder that the ancestors are always present, their watch eternal. And here we arrive at the great, unspoken truth of Tana Toraja, the deep secret hidden within these layers of tradition. This entire complex system of death is not merely about reverence or remembrance. It is a highly sophisticated, ancient form of spiritual containment. Think of it. Rambu Solo, the funeral, is the elaborate process of locking the door. The Manene ritual is the regular, necessary maintenance on that lock, ensuring it does not rust and break. The Tao are the silent alarms, the sentinels posted at the gate. Each element is a barrier. Each offering is a negotiation. Each prayer is a reinforcement of the wall that separates the world of the living from the world of the dead. These are not just traditions, they are chains, carefully forged over generations. Because the most terrifying discovery the ancient Torajans made was not that the dead could be talked to, but that they did not want to leave. The Bombo's desire to remain, to feel the sun and taste the air, is a constant, pressing danger. The system is designed to contain that desire, to placate it, and to keep the spirits tethered to their place, lest they decide to walk among the living once more. But this ancient, careful system is not a fortress of stone. It is a thin veil woven from ritual, memory, and respect. It is a promise made by the living to the dead, and like any promise, it can be broken. The greatest horror is not the existence of restless spirits, but the realization that the very system designed to contain them is now starting to break apart. The ultimate terror for the Torajan people is now becoming a reality. The system is failing. The modern world pushes in, bringing with it new beliefs, economic pressures, and a global culture that has little room for old ways. Younger generations move to cities, leaving the villages and their duties behind. The old rituals, once the bedrock of their world, are becoming less common. The consequences are not merely cultural loss, they are spiritual. A ceremony performed without the correct heart, or worse, not performed at all, does not simply fail. It angers. The careful balance is broken. The Bombo are not just left to wander, they are insulted, neglected. A spirit forgotten by its family becomes a powerful, vengeful force, its sorrow turning to a cold rage that seeps back into the world of the living. Imagine the deep fear of this truth. The dead are not truly gone, and they are being forgotten. Their effigies are left to rot. Their names are no longer spoken at the great feasts. This is not a quiet fading away. It is an active abandonment, a severing of the most sacred bond. And the spirits, feeling this cold neglect, begin to stir in their stone tombs and cliffside graves. This is not just a strange story from a faraway place. The Torajan experience is a stark warning to the rest of the world. It shows that our relationship with the dead is a real force. It has real results. The Torajans built their entire society around managing this force, treating it with the ultimate respect because they knew the danger of failing. Most modern cultures have done the opposite. We have tried to sever this relationship completely. We push the dead away into clean, quiet cemeteries. We hide them behind a wall of grief, then move on. We have chosen to forget, believing that what we cannot see cannot harm us. The Torajans would see this not as progress, but as a terrible, foolish mistake. What we see as forgetting, their beliefs would call neglect. The Torajan system warns that a spirit world we ignore does not just vanish, it waits, it grows colder. The unease we feel in our own sterile, modern world, the sense that something is not right. Could it be the faint echo of all the spirits we have chosen to abandon? This leads to a final, terrifying question. If a culture so deeply invested in managing its dead is now failing to hold them back, what will happen when our own neglected spirits finally decide to make their presence known? We have not built a system to contain them. We have built a world that pretends they do not exist. Look to the cliffs of Tana Toraja. The silent watchers are still there. The Tau, hundreds of wooden figures, stare out from their balconies carved in rock. Their painted eyes have seen centuries of rituals. They have watched families honor their ancestors with love and fear. Now, they watch as the old ways begin to fade. They do not move. They do not speak. They only watch, their faces unchanging as the modern world slowly erases the ancient pact. We are left with their silent gaze and a chilling, unanswered thought. Are they simply waiting for the living to remember their duty, or are they waiting for the dead to finally come and collect what they are owed? The world outside Tana Toraja does not sleep. It pushes inward with cameras, with roads, with a cold logic that has no room for the bombo. This modern pressure is a slow, quiet poison to the old ways. It turns sacred ground into a tourist spot and a deep spiritual duty into a spectacle. The direct result is a dangerous hollowness. When a ritual is done for a camera instead of for a soul, the dead can tell. The offerings feel empty, the chants lose their power. The ancestors, watching from their silent balconies of stone, are not appeased. They are insulted. This breaks the core of the Aluk To Dolo belief system. It was never just a series of actions, but a pact between the living and the dead built on shared respect. When the living treat that pact as a performance, the dead are no longer bound by its terms. The containment fails. Consider the story of a lone traveler in a new guest house built on land purchased from a family who could no longer afford the funeral rites. At night, they heard a soft weeping sound. It seemed to come not from the hall, but from inside the very walls of their room. There was no wind. This was not the violent haunting of a vengeful spirit. It was the sound of profound, endless sorrow. A lost soul, its anchor to the family severed, now tethered to the land itself. It was a ghost trapped between the world it knew and a new one of concrete and glass that it could not understand. The traveler left the island, but the feeling of that sorrow did not leave them. It became a cold weight in their own soul, a quiet dread that would surface on sleepless nights, thousands of miles away. The ghost had imparted a piece of its despair, a spiritual echo that now traveled the globe. The old funeral rites were a form of spiritual geography. They drew a line, a powerful boundary, to ensure the dead remained with their kin in their ancestral lands. They were meant to protect the world of the living from the profound grief of the world of the dead. But a broken ritual creates a broken boundary. A restless bombo, unmoored from its family and its home, might seek a new anchor. It could attach itself to a curious visitor, a purchased souvenir, or even just a vivid memory carried away from the island. Imagine the chilling reality of this. The faint, sweet smell of decaying funeral flowers in a sterile city apartment. A shadow in your peripheral vision that has the shape of a Tau doll you only saw in a photograph. A Torajan ghost, far from its mountain home, has followed you. The lesson of Tana Toraja, then, becomes a universal warning. It suggests that all our dead are bound to us by threads of memory and ritual. When we sever those threads, when we treat the sacred as entertainment, we do not banish the ghosts, we only set them free to wander.